6:36, I call this meeting to order. Welcome. We are in full attendance so far, such as we are. This hasn't happened for a while. No, thank you. You're too late, you're already seated. All right. Does anyone else need a copy of the agenda or a copy of the minutes?
Can you go on in writing?
That's
okay, that's right. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so our first item on the agenda is public comment. We do have a member of the public here tonight, which is very nice. Welcome. As a practice, when we do have folks from the public, we will introduce ourselves and then you're welcome to address us if there's something on your mind. My name is Karen Bellavance-Grace and I'm currently the chair of the Human Rights Commission.
I'm Booker Bush. I'm Joel Morse.
Laurie Loisel.
Noral Mohammed.
Jeremy Wellen. Davina Miller.
It's nice to meet all of you as well. I don't have any comments per se. My name is Megan Peck, and I'm just a resident of Northampton. I found out about this commission recently. I've been here about 4.5 years, and I submitted an application to join the commission. So I'm currently a candidate. I should be hearing before the end of March.
Would you mind repeating your name?
My name is Megan Peck.
M-E-G-A-N.
Yes.
It's great. It's very exciting.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
How did you hear about us? It's great news, but I'm curious how you heard about us.
Actually, through some friends who are on the city council now. So, I have a lot of friends who are very politically active and involved in the city.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe next week, or next time you'll be sitting here.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things on our agenda is how to raise our profile in the community, so good to know how you found out about us. Lori's taking notes for us tonight. Thank you, Lori. And Noral has volunteered for March, so think about if you want to be on tap for April. Next on the agenda is accepting the January minutes. My apologies for sending them out too late, so late. Have you all had time to review them?
I have something I want to propose. I think if I remember right, and I might not be remembering right, but this whole part about the next phase of community outreach with our listening circles, I thought we also fine-tuned it a little more and included, we wanted to have focus groups for youth and like we got a little specific focus groups for youth.
I do have more details in my notes. Do you want me to?
Oh, well, I think it's better to have more details because otherwise we'll forget.
This is a plan.
Fair enough.
And I mean, I thought that was part of our decisions too, so I don't know. Do you all agree that we should add that? Anybody who's here?
I think that might be
Yeah. But I can't remember the other things. I just thought we spent a fair amount of time talking about it and made some good decisions, I thought.
I thought I tried to capture all the decisions, and we did a lot of brainstorming. as
Okay,
well.
so maybe it's just brainstorming.
Yeah.
Fair-
So I
fair-
guess,
fair enough. So did you think that the focus group idea was a brainstorm?
that's what I
Okay.
thought, because I don't think we made a decision about it.
Okay.
For the purpose of city committees, minutes are really to track the decisions that are made in public session. But that's sort of a minimum standard, so we can definitely, I can go back and include some more of the notes of that conversation into the minutes.
I think it would be helpful to have some of the brainstorm, just so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you, Lori. So I will amend the minutes and we will take them up next month with, along with this month's minutes, if that's acceptable.
Fine with me.
Sounds good.
I think that the next item will go pretty quickly because I don't think any of us were actually available to attend the Committee on Disabilities. Okay. So next, they meet the third Tuesday of the month at 5 o'clock at the Senior Center. Senior Center? Pretty sure it's Senior Center. Third Tuesdays, I'm always in Boston. So if there is someone who can represent the next third Tuesday.
So what would be the date for March?
19th.
So March 19th.
I could do that.
I might be available as well.
Okay.
Well, you can both go because
Sure.
we didn't have anybody last time.
Yeah, I'm out of town unfortunately.
So is it okay, I had got an email from City Councilor Mary Ann Labarge asking me about this.
Mhm.
I told her I'd get back to her. Can I email her and say that, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that was one of her big she was at my town hall and that was not town hall, what were they?
The ward meeting.
Thank you. The ward meetings, and that was a big concern. She wanted to have our participation there, so that would be great.
Does it make sense for me to email introduce you to her?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
It's Marion Labarge?
yes.
Yeah,
No.
she's, I know.
Okay. So,
Great, thank you, friends. We did name that we would like to expand our listening circles to include members of the disabilities community as well. Sometimes that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Indeed. It's the same thing.
So, welcome. We've passed the point in our agenda for public comment, but if you would come here with something that you'd like to bring to the commission, we can make time to hear from you.
What'd you say? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. No, I'm just glad to be here. See you all. I do have a question. If there's just no emergency, you still have a meeting. Okay. And if you didn't, for any reason, it would be listed
I'm
on.
sorry?
If you didn't have your meetings, it would just be listed on the Northampton website.
Yes, we have had, once or twice we've had them canceled at short notice, and we have put a note on the door, but otherwise, on the website.
Yeah, and then if we do not have a quorum, we can't meet, so.
Ah. And how many is the quorum?
Great. Next on the agenda, we're going to just cruise right through here. The report on community development block grant hearings have to be rescheduled. I'll be representing the Human Rights Commission on those. Will be March 11th and 12th. They're doing 2 longer days instead of 3 shorter days.
oh, was this because of the storm?
Because scheduled.
Oh.
They could not get everybody
Oh, okay,
consistently for the 3 days.
okay.
Let's see. So for those of you who are newer to the commission, every year the city has a limited amount of community development block grant funds, and local service agencies submit requests for a portion of those funds. Places like Brothers Big Sisters, Meals on Wheels, Center for New Americans, International Language Institute, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a 5-person panel that works with the planning department to review the requests, to listen to presentations from those agencies, and then to make the recommendation to the mayor for how the funds will be allocated. And they started, I think, with Christine Young, a former member of the commission, being inviting somebody from the commission to represent human rights perspective on those panels. So gives me, or whoever of us represents the HRC, the opportunity to bring that lens to their conversations. So, if there were anyone else who had those daytime hours available, I'd be happy to let someone else experience it, because it really is a fascinating process.
When is it again?
March 11th and 12th, from noon to 3 each day at City Hall.
Is it once a year or?
Mhm.
Oh. Yeah, I can't have one too long.
Right.
And you have to be there both days?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That's-
Well, I'll go again this year.
Thank you.
But it's really an interesting process. Okay.
Can only one attend or?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I tried to split up the days with Lori, and their preference is to have this one person attend all of it. Because when we vote on the allocation, we're sort of comparing all of the requests we've heard.
And would you be able to vote on it then? Okay. It would probably be a little bit of a conflict for me anyway, because I'm on the board of Big Brothers,
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah, that would be.
I know how I vote.
Give them all the money. So at the last meeting, we spent a good amount of time talking about the feedback that we got from folks in our listening sessions at the board meetings in December. And we decided that we would post that initial feedback that Lori collected into a single document. We asked Court and the mayor's office to post that on our website, but that would not be the definitive report that we would submit to the city council. It's too limited, too small a scope, too narrow scope of respondents. But we will include it in the larger report we'll give at the end of this year. And we made the decision, those of us who were here last time, that we would take this on as a major project for the rest of the year to expand our outreach into the community with more of these kinds of conversations. And there were communities of people that we would specifically want to invite into conversation that would not necessarily come out on to a board meeting such as the ones we had. And others who were here.
Can I just interrupt for one quick second? Because there was one more thing before we got to that, which was the fair housing hearings. Or did we want to report on that? That one that was at the Community Arts Trust.
Oh, I forgot about that, yes.
I missed the beginning of it, so
Okay.
I wasn't sure if I could go, and then I just didn't have time, but I missed the beginning of it. So I don't feel like I should report on it.
Right, there
And
was.
I left early, so
Yeah,
especially.
thank you, Laura, I
Yeah.
completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
So last month, we were invited to participate in a hearing that was done by a consulting group that was hired by the city to make an assessment on fair housing issues in Northampton. And so they had stakeholders from a number of different sectors in the community, business owners, real estate folks, residents, and the day that we were there, the hour that we were there was for government officials. So there were the mayor was there, folks from our planning committee were there. There were also a couple of landlords that were there, the developer of the Live 55 project on Pleasant Street, they were there as well. So the consultants asked some really good questions, and we were able to provide some feedback about barriers that we see as access to affordable housing in Northampton. And even did they asked what we saw as potential what's the opposite of barriers? Fixes to the barriers, you know, how to lower the barriers to affordable housing. So, and actually Ted Weir, who is the minister over at First Churches, who also is on the CDBG panel, had some really excellent comments about the need for our community to think regionally, as even think of housing and affordable housing as a regional issue and not just a local community by community issue. So there will be a report that comes out of this consultant's work. I don't know when that will be, but I think it's good work and it's proactive. And I think it's a real positive thing that our government, our local government, is doing this kind of proactive assessment.
Thank you for, sorry to interrupt the other one.
No, I appreciate the reminder. So, other folks who were here at the last meeting, we talked about different communities we wanted to hear from. I know we talked about youth. I know we talked about folks who live in public housing and possibly the elder community and immigrant community in Northampton. In addition to some, just larger, more just open to whoever shows up, similar to the ones that Northampton Connects held last year. We also would like to extend an invitation to Northampton Connects to partner with us in this ongoing project if they have the capacity and the willingness to do that. For folks who are here, for your impressions of that conversation, for folks who were not.
Well, I'll just say that one of the things I liked about it is your idea, Karen, of just having it be the thing that shapes a full year of our work. And I thought that was a really good idea.
I'm sorry, because I wasn't here. So was the idea to have more listening situations similar to what happened with the board meeting?
Yes. We can talk about whether we'll use the same questions or adapt those. A two-pronged purpose. One is to raise the profile of the Human Rights Commission, to let more people in Northampton know that we're here and what our mission is and what we can do. And second, to hear from the community what they perceive as the human rights priorities for Northampton, and that can help shape our work moving forward.
And the reason that we would coordinate with Northampton Connects is just because of the way we work together with them.
Mm-hmm. It would be a combination of that we had a positive experience with them in December.
Right.
And they bring their own network of folks.
Yeah, I think that's what would be important, if there's a way to, they can help get the word out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we had a very positive, it's a wonderful group, so.
And they do have some skilled facilitators for those of us who aren't comfortable facilitating groups.
But we don't have any dates yet or anything.
We do not.
We weren't at the meeting.
I was not at the meeting, so I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch up here.
It kind of evolved from our discussion of our listening circles and the report that I wrote based on the notes. And the feeling was that didn't go deep enough, or that didn't give us enough data to make any recommendations that were meaningful. So that was part of us talking about the recommendations that Elisa Plynett suggested at the previous meeting, that we think about what kind of legislative things we'd want the city council to do, and we felt like we didn't have really enough to go on. So, but that maybe we could consider what we did kind of a practice run and do it bigger and better.
We wanted to reach more communities. I know that was brought up because it was mainly middle-aged, white, upper, middle-class people that came to the session. So we wanted to be able to target and reach other groups of Northampton so we can get a full scope of Northampton's views and opinions.
No, that sounds wonderful. I think it's been a challenge for Northampton Connect. Northampton Connects has had the same problem, that the same populations came to their sessions. I think they enjoyed working with us, though they were disappointed at the number of people who attended.
I think we all were.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's sort of, how do we do that? Northampton Connects is currently working on something called the Human Library, which is a way of doing discussions about, they're still primarily interested in how to have community discussions. And their last meetings, and the next meeting is going to be in April, is to plan on having something, a kind of community conversation. It's called the Human Library. And I haven't read enough about it, so I'm not going to try to explain it. But they're going to meet in April with a plan of having something in the fall. As a group, it was a challenge for them also that our timeline was short from when we said we wanted to do something and did something. So that was another issue. So, they're already planning for next fall. As an example of a timeline for how would we do this.
And the other thing that last time we talked about was seeing if you would ask if they wanted to work with us on this project.
I will be glad to ask. My God, they like any kind of conversation as long as it's well. I'm looking at quizzical faces. So Northampton Connects is a organization that's not outside of the Human Rights Commission, and they grew out of how do we learn how to talk as a larger community about issues that are going on in Northampton. All kinds of issues, everything from how are people who live on the streets treated, are sidewalks, disability, do the ways we get around the town work for all people who get around the town. And they were trying to promote conversations that went on across different ideas and different thoughts. And this went on for the last 2 years. And there are facilitators. Paula Green from Hands Across the Hills is also part of that organization. So they helped us do our ward discussions. So that's why we're talking about parallel things. And I think, I think this is all trying to understand what are issues for the community, how do we learn to listen about issues for the community, and next steps based on what we can.
I feel that I think we should put our energies into, once we decide the various groups we're going to address, particularly how you connect with those people from those groups. Because it feels like, I think, for all of us, such a significant issue was how few people came to our listening circles, and it was short notice. So I agree that a longer period of time, but I think really focusing. And for instance, older people, that Northampton Neighbours thing is a wonderful thing. But I think a lot of people from different places and backgrounds are using. So I think for elderly people that would be an easy way. There's a very easy to put a message out on that. But again, how do we get youth, more kids? How do we get people from the other? How do we get people who are traditionally underrepresented? And I think that's in some ways the biggest hurdle.
That's partly kind of why I have somewhat of concern with Northampton Connects, because I know within the community, I don't think that people that are, what I've heard from people who are minorities and people who are maybe lower class, they don't feel that safe place, I think, with Northampton Connect, so I worry about adding Northampton Connect's name to it, and then that alienates and pushes away the people that we're trying to go after. So that's definitely something that gives me a little bit of hesitancy, just based on what I've heard from other members of the community that are the ones that we're trying to reach out to, and what they feel and what they've had to say about Northampton Connects, and how we bridge that gap and make them feel safe to be able to come and attend those meetings. So that's why I worry about making it a year-long thing where Northampton Connect's name is tied to it for the whole year. That concerns me a little bit.
I don't think Northampton Connects would disagree with a single word we just said. They recognize that as an issue.
Yeah.
On the youth front, I certainly can, be a connection at Northampton High School. Right now, I'm working on a project with the students of color lines, and so we're doing for our transcript, our weekly news magazine. But what I could definitely envision is a school-wide assembly in which there's a panel and there's kind of what we've been doing here. So I can certainly be kind of the point person for establishing that, and I can also talk to Smith Vocationals. I have a lot of friends over there that would be interested as well. Some of the things that we talked about last time, I don't know if we ever found answers to. One was asking for some funding from the mayor, and another was seeing the legalities and permissions around having a platform, either a website or a Facebook page or things like that. So I don't know if we ever had time to follow up on those. That if we had a base or a platform in which we could, even the website, if I had access to that, we could post some things and information as well.
I've requested a meeting with the mayor, and I don't, our calendars haven't synced yet, so.
Cool.
But yes,
Yeah.
I expect to definitely within. Any other,
Well, I'm curious, maybe this is overly simplistic, but I think I would be curious if we would want to say, why don't we try something? Because of your being here, and in a sense, the youth, meaning the high school students, might be an easier audience to capture if it was just for them. If we might want to experiment with a town hall community meeting with them and try to organize that and see what would happen.
Yeah, certainly. We've done it in the past as well. So there was the students were considering a walkout in regards to just instances around treatment of police and African Americans, and so there was a walkout that turned into a productive town hall meeting or a panel discussion rather, that brought in a whole bunch of different academics and notable figures from the community. And it was actually really, really good. It was really kind of educational. It was a chance for students to voice their concerns as well. I know that administration is really receptive to that. I know that the students take a proactive approach in that, the various organizations. So I'm more than willing to bring that over there as well.
if there's anything else that from last meeting to bring everybody up to speed, I want to.
I don't remember fully what it was we talked about, but I know we had discussed some kind of way for people to write in about concerns without attending or something. Now,
Yes.
I can't remember exactly what it
Yes.
was, but I remember we touched base something about, was it the website or was it something?
Either an online survey like we did a couple years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
or something. We will make it.
Where we wanted people's feedback in that, right?
We'll make it accessible.
All right, Survey Monkey?
Certainly, I could definitely do it.
Or Google Forms.
Yeah, or Google
Forms.
Forms, yeah.
Yeah, but either way, so it's really, there's so many things to talk about and so many great ideas. I want to suggest that for the time we have to talk about this, I could envision two ways of organizing it. One is we can kind of lay out a timeline with, this is our starting point. Our ending point is presenting something to the public on Human Rights Day in December. And we can lay out a timeline of when we want to, schedule things in and target what those things might be. Or we could just spend some time doing a giant mind map of all the possible things, like the youth panel, not a pep rally, disassemble. Yes. Although,
Yeah.
can't rally for human rights, I wouldn't, you
Yeah.
know. So I can see those two ways of organizing this conversation. Are there others that folks?
Well, can we do both those things? Because I think that it would be helpful to have a framework, which includes a timeline, I think. And then I also think it would be great to have some brainstorming. Does the mind map work within a timeframe?
And we can try and set time for both.
I also think it would be helpful at some point to have a name for this project.
Early, so that we can promote it.
Right, and we did talk about some media, needing a media strategy for this too. Just kind of pull this around.
I'm speaking to our audience. So a challenge for us is you can only make decisions in a meeting because of the open meeting laws. So I find it a challenge to make a plan to do things outside of these meetings. We can't. So, and we only meet once a month. So when you start trying to do something programmatic, it's a challenge to
There we go. No, great. Is that unmuted? Yeah, this one loosens.
Oh, there you go. We're quite the engineers. There you go, that's why you did it.
chemical.
Clearly I wasn't.
All right, so I'm going to start our timeline here. So we'll have something to present for Human Rights Day. And we don't have a name for it yet, unless somebody has come up with a name for the project in the last 30 seconds. No.
I have an idea for a working name.
Let's go with it for tonight.
HRC Listens.
Okay. Right, so do we want to just spend a little bit more time thinking about the different sorts of places and people we want to listen with and to? You know, we talked about Northampton Connects. Lori, I'm hoping that this is going to be something you can take a picture of.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The
Okay,
minutes, yeah.
great idea.
We also talked about questions about their, how would you phrase it? Their level of trust in some communities. So we may invite them to be partners in some places and not in others. We talked about high school and Smith Folk.
So this part is brainstorming?
Mm-hmm.
How about city employees?
How do we want, I would be careful on how we phrase it, but I want it to be inclusive. single out, but I think we need to think more inclusive of the entire community and how to reach the entire community, as opposed to just a certain segment.
So, want to be inclusive of people of color, of socioeconomic, of disability status. What else?
Houseless people? It said the elderly?
Sorry?
The elderly, I think it said.
I'm just gonna put generational. Captures all of them. I think that it came up.
Gender identity and
Yeah, I was just
sexual
gonna say
orientation.
LGBT or gender identity too. Trying to think of.
We can continue to build on this. The reason I put this separate over on this side is that I think that there'll be some Venn diagrammy in some of the, certainly if we are, talking to high school students, some of them will be in some of these, will also be.
Yeah, I
these
think that
identities.
my thought is we just want to make sure we reach these people.
Mhm.
Whether it's inviting them or including them into the discussion, somehow we've got to reach them.
Right. Committee on Disabilities is certainly, I'm gonna put partners over here, is another partner we can ask for support on that.
The senior center
Yeah.
could be another one.
Senior centers.
We talked about reaching out to, although we have you, it was a great segue to the youth, but we talked about reaching out to the youth that did the March for Our Lives rally, since they have.
Oh, and the other thing we talked about was going to Lawrence Heights, Hampshire Heights.
I was just thinking that.
Meadowbrook.
In partnerships, we might want to think about just organizational media partnerships. So look at community television if we wanted to, for instance, have anything recorded, or if we want to do any kind of advertisements or anything to get out on the public television as well.
Also, was that in the advocate? WHMP.
So another I thought is maybe to reach out to like MANA, the soup kitchen folks, because maybe there could be some kind of focus group out of there in that venue. So I don't know if that's a partner or an idea for a focus group. but-
Also CBDG grant funded.
Another thing possibly is reaching out to people in recovery.
I'm gonna put under city employees, I'm also gonna put the police department. I think that would be, might be good.
One of the questions this raises for me is, these are the various groups we'd like to not only invite and get in touch with, but really think creatively about how we get them to want to come.
Right.
Part of it. But it's not clear to me we're going to need or be able to do individual listening circles for all these people, and how do we group them, or how do we? I mean, I think the youth group is somewhat easier.
Yeah, and I think it's also, we can immediately put on the timeline if we wanted to do it if we wanted to do it by the end of this school year, it would be late May, I would suggest.
It's pretty quick.
And if we wanted to do it at the, and I can do a lot of the legwork without, you can't meet without being a body like at our meetings, but there's a lot of things that I can kind of organize and everything. And if we didn't feel comfortable doing it then, we could do it in October or November before that. But that gives us 2 kind of specific dates to put on our timeline as well.
Well, did I understand you, Booker, to say, I thought what you were saying earlier was that maybe we could consider doing the youth first as kind of like
It's a way to find out how this will work.
yeah. And I agree with that. I think it's a really good idea.
So,
I think
I think it's a really good idea to try to do it at the end of this year, because then that might inform us of what we do in other meetings in the fall.
It feels easier for you because we're not asking them to come, they're gonna be there, and we're going to them more, so that would be easier, I think, to set up than with some of these other ones where we have to do a little bit more time and promotion around it.
I'd really like to support the idea of late May, if that seems, if that fits in terms of.
So we would be meeting, if it's the fourth Wednesday, May 22nd. In between that and the window of the seniors leaving, which is sometime within the first week of June. So.
But it doesn't have to do with when we meet, because we have.
Not when we,
have
well,
April.
so if we wanted to say any kind of last minute things for that, I would suggest doing it after that May meeting.
But we have April, we have March and April to plan it too.
Yeah.
So,
Also check your calendar for cast and all that stuff.
Faith communities is another set of faith communities is another set of potential partners.
I hate seeing a year spread out like that because it makes it look so short.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's true that we can only make decisions in the body of the whole. However, we can delegate work to subcommittees to happen in between our decision-making meetings. So don't forget that. While you all were looking at calendars, I did add immigrants and connected to that, although not all of them, but non-English speakers.
So, if I think what is the group that's in the James House? Is that the Center for New Americans?
Yes.
Okay, so I know that they close down in the summer, so I recommend we do them before the summer too. So maybe we could think about doing the schools and the Center for New Americans before the summer.
ILI might be a good place for
That makes, especially if we're going to try to do
Exactly,
that.
yeah.
They're going to be working for it.
For our libraries.
So the library is also doing an ongoing set of dialogues and discussions. they're having issues also with who shows up.
Oh, really? Okay. What are they doing discussions about?
I went to one of the ones on race. Not the book reading, but another one that was done later. I think there were only 12 people there. Though that's larger than most of our sessions. They weren't facilitated, and they're very, but they have a grant to sort of do this and structured around books. So there are some parallel things going on.
Maybe we might even be able to partner.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's some things that are happening that we can actually ask them if we can come to, as opposed to having people come to us, like for example, maybe.
Like one of those sessions.
That's why I went.
Right, or the Committee on Disabilities, like.
Yeah.
I think ILI does that too. I know they brought in the police department once to like come and speak with people, so maybe that's like, we could go on as speakers for.
And then in addition to all of these targeted groups, we do want to have general community sessions, right? At least one?
Say what you mean by that.
So it's more like the Northampton Connects conversations where we just show up at JFK and whoever shows up.
I'd like to do a general community session closer towards the end of the year. It's kind of a way for us to gauge, were we able to reach those communities and make them more comfortable to come to these kind of sessions? I feel like that would be interesting to see the result after doing some other smaller listening sessions. Yeah, just kind of as a way to gauge our effectiveness.
Can we engage people to want people to be interested in come to a different session?
Yeah.
And those would also presumably be the larger sessions and would raise the awareness about this project closer to the time that we're going to do the report.
That
So
would be an interesting outcome variable.
Yeah.
Sorry, I talk like that. It's an interesting outcome variable to see if after a conversation at the high school and a conversation at other places, do people come to something else that's outside of whatever that other place was? And just to see if there's engagement.
Well, it seems like one of the challenges of the smaller groups will be to help people really feel listened to and hear their concerns in the hope that they could feel more comfortable engaging.
I think we said we wanted to do emails next time, because we didn't with these ward ones, get people's emails so that we could update them about future sessions. So just email us so that we can reach people more easily.
I think January part of it. I mean, a lot of people have emailed, but not everybody.
So maybe other ways too, yeah. But
we can keep adding to the mind map, but it maybe we're ready to turn to try and plot some of this out.
Do you have a sense of things like MCAS and?
I'm looking at it, as we speak, I'm taking a look, I see the calendar.
I'm pretty, they're done by May.
We have a biology one that we have to be a test school for. It's a new electronic version for biology, but I don't exactly know where that is. I don't know if they would do it that late, but it just came up in a meeting.
Oh.
So I'm trying to find an email that says when that's gonna happen.
Jeremy, do you have a colleague at the middle school that you think would be well positioned to be contact for us there?
Yeah, I can reach out, and I certainly know a lot of the teachers there as well. So I can try, for sure.
I mean, it's not an action item for right now, just wondered if you had it.
Yeah, there's a couple of minds that, or names that come to mind,
Okay.
so,
Great.
yeah.
All right, I think that we're going to need to definitely spend time in March doing planning and strategy. So does anyone think that before May would be an opportunity for any public launch or?
No, I think that the problem was we were too rushed with the last one,
Right.
and we need to
We
give
were.
ourselves time.
Right,
And
I
we
mean,
knew
it's
that
nice with
going
the
in.
school one because we have, for lack of a better term, a captive audience, I mean, they're there. So I think we can do it by late May, you know, but I think for the general community, I think that was one of our biggest challenges the last time, is it was so quick. I'd rather do the planning and have it in the fall, or, you know, in December.
And
And we have to give ourselves time to advertise, so, because that was another thing, getting the word out was rushed. So,
I think there's going to be 2 points of advertising. I think we want to do a spring point, and I think we want to do a fall point, because people are going to go away in the summer. So we're getting into strategy.
but I think it is possible for us to have one of these listening sessions in the summer.
Yeah, I agree, I agree. Oh, yeah, Smith College, we didn't add that there as well. Smith Community. Also, Cooley Dickinson is our biggest employer, and they also serve a lot of folks in the emergency department.
Yeah.
So how many total sessions do we want to target, to plan for?
Well, I think this is why we try to be specific about which people in the community we want to reach. Because my bias, I don't know if it's true or not, my bias is if you really want people from public housing to come to a meeting, you need to have the meeting in public housing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a way that people who are houseless speaking with us, we would need to partner with Cathedral on the Street and others. That, you know, Northampton Connects is trying to do that. It, for a variety of reasons, couldn't get that to work. And I think what I heard from others was that we needed to have the meeting where the people were, rather than saying, come to where we're going to meet.
Yeah.
I guess really.
And so that, I think that's what we'll need to do, but that also sets a limit.
So, did you have Cathedral on the Streets?
I did.
Okay, I would
Sorry, my
put-
handwriting is.
Okay, great. Okay. I don't know, I'm just gonna throw out a number 6. What were other people thinking?
I was thinking 3, but that's too few.
I was thinking 1 a month.
Which is how many? Like, when do you start counting?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7.
What is it?
Well, again, you know, it goes back to what Booker was saying. You know, if we're gonna try and pinpoint certain things, it could be that way. You know, it could easily be, you know, one a month, one for the homeless area, one for public housing, one for the schools, one for, but on the other side of it, you know, you're segmenting it, you know, part of my thought was I want to get them together, but I don't know, maybe that's a pipe dream.
Well, I think that was the
Yeah,
neat
the
idea
general
about
approach,
here,
yeah.
there'll be this other community meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a part of the pitch at each of these will need to be, we're gonna all try to come together.
At the general
At
session.
this general
Okay,
session.
I got it, okay.
Plus, we did that in December. You know, we went board by board.
Right.
It didn't work so well, so this is more to try to combat or fix
But
that.
we've got a lot of different kind of interest groups.
Yes.
And some of them are citywide, like people with disabilities. or-
Right.
I mean-
It's also a challenge to do it when we meet monthly. You know.
Well, that's why, it's really totally manageable. Because that's why we're doing a whole timeline, and then we'll assign tasks.
And
So-
we'll probably have a subcommittee come out of tonight's meeting to work on planning and strategy. That will bring something for the commission to approve next month. And then I think action items can be delegated. You know, we're responsible for one of the ward meetings in December, and I'm imagining that, you know, that we would have a similar model, we could talk about it.
We're responsible for one of the what meetings?
Ward meetings that we did in December.
What do you?
We were,
Like we were
we were.
each-
We did, yes.
I see.
Yeah, so for this time, you know, Jeremy might be the one who convenes the youth meeting, and, you know, I might be the one that convenes city employees, or whatever we could take.
I want to just suggest that, I don't know, I have a question about whether or not it makes sense to have a planning and strategy subcommittee, because I think we do it better together. And you marked March and April for planning and strategy, so that's a lot of time with us all together. So,
Right, as we have 25 minutes left.
I mean, you
Right,
know, we
but-
could dedicate the March meeting to planning and strategy.
Mhm.
I just find, it's been my experience that subcommittees don't really happen, and so, you know.
Well, maybe we could try in March, and then if we feel like there's a lot more work that needs to be done, a subcommittee could come out of that. But if we get most of the work done, then
I'm comfortable, I think that's a good idea. I guess the question I have is there, should we start trying to make contacts with potential connections that would help us do this?
yeah,
I think that's a really good idea.
yeah.
I think that we should do that. I think we need to do the planning in March first, till we know more about.
Before we talk to potential partners.
Right, so we have, well, we'll have a name for the project, decided on that, and, you know, I think there's some things we need to know before,
Yes, elevator speech maybe?
yeah. Know what we're inviting them to be
Yeah, right.
part of, and how to be part of this.
But you can float the idea of North Haven Connects.
Well, see, so other easier meetings to hold are going to different faith communities and asking, can we have a meeting after a service to sort of just ask people what they think major issues are. I mean, I don't think that's a big deal.
As opposed to inviting faith communities to come together.
I actually think it's the same idea. I think everybody, forgive me for using these words, I think everybody is tribal, and it's easy to have the tribe meet, and then sort of see if something magical happens in the tribal meeting that makes people feel like they're part of the bigger meeting. But I think just reading in the Gazette about a big meeting doesn't, so far it hasn't worked.
Didn't really work last time.
But we also, I mean, we were kind of beta testing this in December. We didn't know what we were doing, we didn't know how we, so it was disappointing to have so few people, but it also, I think it would have been overwhelming if we had large crowds the first time trying it. I think we'll be better prepared for the next.
So what would be a good use of our time now?
Well, is there, the connection of having youth before the end of this school year made sense. Are there any kind of logical connections that go with the calendar for some of the other folks we're hoping to meet with?
Well, I guess I think that maybe to reach out to, people who don't have homes,
Mhm.
the Man Soup Kitchen, the
Mhm.
Cathedral in the Night. Might be a good idea to do that in the summer because
Mhm.
it's less of a survival mode, so.
Similar with public housing.
And I'm wondering if maybe one thing we could do now is think about on those, like, what are the things that group together? Yeah,
Yeah.
and like, cause I think that, anyway, that's all I can say anymore. I just thought if we grouped things together, it would help us figure out, like, literal, in a more realistic way, how many we think we need to have. And,
So,
Like, not all immigrants are gonna be non-English speakers, but I think we can say that non-English speakers are probably gonna be immigrants, majority of them.
yeah.
are there any others you put in that group?
Maybe Casa Latino.
And Center for the Americans?
Yeah. And then, I think you could group together recovery and disability, community on disabilities, public housing. The reason being that some of the public housing has people are there because they're disabled, so. And then it does seem like, seniors. Do we want to include seniors in that group, or do we want seniors to have a separate group?
See, I was thinking that too. I was almost thinking seniors could be by itself. And that, I would think that would be a large segment, the senior center.
I think the senior centre and that Northampton neighbours.
But separate from, like, a separate meeting than from, like,
I think it depends how small we plan to split it up,
yeah.
because
I'm gonna have to take a lot of pictures of this board.
Yeah. I'm thinking of, what if we invited Cooley Dickinson to also be at the recovery disability? I think I see this.
I don't want to stop the brainstorming, but I think we need to ask people in these places what they think the cluster should be. I don't think we know.
How would we ask?
Well, I think we have to ask. I think we need to go to ILI and Center for
Yeah.
New Americans, and and say, here's our goal. Who do you think can be in the room, or who else could be in the room? And agree.
I agree. I think we can do both, though. I think we can go to
Yeah.
Trust-Latine and CNA and say, we're thinking of
This,
this.
does this work? Does this make sense, or are we gonna run into a problem?
And how can we reach people?
You know, and then I just wonder, do we want to have like a separate group for GLBTQ community? I don't know. It's that whole the thing about intersectionality,
Are you-
that, you know, that they'll be in the elder group and,
Sure,
you know. so-
yeah.
You know, it's hard figuring out what everybody will feel safe with.
Right,
Yeah.
right, like, do we want to have a group for people of color?
Okay. See, these are things I think might happen when we talk to kids in the high school.
So what I like about the high school too is that it roofs everywhere in the spectrum. It roofs everybody
Yeah,
from
right.
socioeconomic
Absolutely.
and race. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have any of those targeted auspices that we're seeing. So that's what I like about that. And we may lay some plans out tentatively, and then from that, I think it's a big data gathering. So what works and how kind of, obviously there's gonna be some differences
Yeah.
because of the environment that we're in, but there's probably some things that we can definitely learn and tweak. So.
I haven't been student at NHS for 6 years, but I know when I used to go after the assemblies, sometimes we would get like surveys the next day. In like our first period class about the assembly, you'd fill it out and then it would go back to the people. So I wonder if that's something that we'd be able to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To do.
Yeah.
It's planning and strategy.
Well, also, don't forget the survey. Like, and where would we put that in this whole thing?
There's a whole other group, there's a whole other target group, which are the business community.
And the business committee is another one of those places that has regular gatherings. I know the chamber has the Arrive at 5 that we may be able to piggyback on. Right. How to leave this for this evening?
What was your question, I'm sorry?
Trying to think about how to leave this for this
Oh.
evening.
Well, one of the things that I think that was a disadvantage of the last time was that we didn't have time to like do this and then think. Because you know how like this will percolate and we'll come back next time and have ideas, more ideas, I think. So I think it's good that we're talking about it, not making decisions, we're thinking, then we have time to think about it and come back and kind of fine tune and tweak and stuff.
I think one of the things that'd be very, very helpful is what you said. In between, we could go ask the group saying, you know, here's where we're thinking. Are we kind of on the right track? Do you think this is that? And then I think that would have really good feedback for the next meeting to say, you know, they came up with this other thought that we could incorporate or, you know, they really liked it, but I think that would help.
So do you think maybe we should think about some little bits of research we could do before the next meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I was just saying what Booker said. I mean, we're coming up with these segments, and are we the experts on, are these the best people?
Uh-huh.
And so, Booker's suggestion to talk to some key people and say, are we on the right track here? And then also, how can we help Jeremy get some ideas or thoughts to that one? Because that would be coming up quick.
Would you be able to reserve a date in May?
So I just sent an email to our, to the school manager to see what day is. So she has a master calendar in front of her, and she'll know exactly when everything's going on.
Okay, great. So we
That's
don't have,
right there.
we don't have a lot of information about what it is we're asking for yet, but.
Yeah, we could certainly secure, I usually as an assembly is fourth period, so I know kind of where in the day it would be. It would be probably between 12:30 and 2, somewhere in that. And I'm guessing between the 15th and 30th of May, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay, so I'm writing down action 6 now. You're gonna see if you can get a
Yep,
date
I
at
sent
the high
that
school.
email.
We wanna have people take on these potential clusters and kick the tires on the ideas?
I'd just like to go back and just ask you a question. When you talk about a school assembly, does that mean everybody has to come?
It's voluntary, but there would be, I'm assuming there would be high attendance. It's usually all assemblies are voluntary unless it's a logistical thing for a certain class. But we do have high attendance at ours.
But isn't that's a really large group?
So the other thing in the March meeting would be to look at the logistics of what we would want to do. I think it would be probably a hybrid of a panel and collection of questions and concerns. The nice thing about being in the smaller groups was that we could break out. There's not the space is not really conducive for breaking out into small groups. They could kind of talk in turn, but we would want to kind of strategize of what we would.
Or do you think, does Northampton do those advisories?
So for next year, we're trying to get that's going to be a really cool thing. But we're trying to get a half an hour of kind of what's called flex time. It's nothing set in stone, but that would be another great way to use that time in smaller groups.
But you're not doing that
But we're
this
not
year?
doing that.
Okay.
this year.
So there's really no opportunity in small groups to get?
We could definitely talk to different clubs and other organizations and see if they want to come together and kind of after school kind of mini assembly. The nice thing about having a kind of a full a larger assembly is that students that may need their only transportation is the bus or other
Right.
circumstances in which they can't participate after school, which has been a problem. You get a lot more voices in that.
I don't know how feasible this would be. I know there was an assembly once where it was for LGBTQA+, and the way that they did it was kind of an all-day thing, and they wanted it to be a safe space, so they had kind of breakout sessions. It was like one in the library and one in the cafeteria, and then it was able to be 2 or 3 classrooms at a time in each of the settings, and they did it all day, so it covered a large majority of the school, but people were able to talk in a safe space and really lay those boundaries of respect because of the sensitive topics that the panel members were going to be talking to us about. But I don't know if that's feasible at all, but that was something I remember enjoying because we were able to talk about it in a small setting. People who wouldn't normally feel comfortable speaking at an assembly, like myself, were able to speak up and ask questions directly to the panel and kind of have more of an engagement with the people around them. But that also depends on our schedules too, because that was an all-day thing, so I don't know.
Yeah, you can certainly explore that as a possibility as well. I like that.
Cool, but your administration will probably want to know a little bit more about what it is we're
For sure.
talking about.
The administration is really receptive to things like that. And the students are really proactive in their approach for working with them, so they would definitely be interested in partnering. I'll probably be chaperoning a big climate march that they're organizing, so the students take on a lot of that as well. So that everybody is pretty receptive to things like this at the school.
May I ask one other, sorry, it's going to be a big question. So, what we're working on is we want to set up a series of talks, discussions, so that we better understand what are the human rights issues that people from Northampton would like us to. Can you finish that? I
Sure.
want somebody else to help me finish that sentence.
Sure. What are the human rights priorities of the people who live and work here and study here?
Okay. So,
And you have a Human Rights Commission here in Northampton, and this is what we do.
So, so for instance, a topic comes out of everybody should have access to a bicycle in Northampton. What would we do with that?
So we're not going to promise to advocate for everything we hear.
Okay.
We're gathering information from the community. If we hear from 700 people that everyone should have access to a bicycle, then we might bring that to a conversation with the city council.
Okay.
But yeah, everything we hear will be compiled into a report we'll give at the end of the year, but hopefully we'll see some threads that will come to that.
So one of the issues, the reason I'm bringing this up, one of the issues is, and I still remember John Bidwell from United Way saying, tell me again what your business plan is. The human, and what will you do with whatever we say to you? And frankly, that's where Northampton Connects has stopped, because it became very clear that what they were hearing in all the meetings is Northampton needs a new community center that can service a part of the community. And sort of quickly, they didn't have a way of where you go with that. Even to the point of even having the next meeting. So I just want to, if I start talking with other groups and say, what are you going to do with what you hear? It will help inform our work in the coming months. If, whatever we hear back from people, what the priorities are people in the community, we can convene conversations, we can provide educational programs. There's that list of things we can do. We can advocate for legislation with the city council. And we will give a report of what we hear to the city council and the mayor so that they will know what our community thinks of as priorities. But we can't promise specific.
I'd like to just, it seems to me, it's what are the human rights issues and priorities for as many of the people in Northampton as possible, for as wide a range of people.
Can you repeat that again?
It seems to me that what are the human rights issues and priorities?
Yes.
For as many of the people in Northampton, or for a wide range of people in Northampton, or for the widest possible range of people, something.
That's a nice
That's a nice one.
frame. And if we forget what we're doing, we'll go back to that one. So I can imagine this is actually being a 2-year project. One is the first year is like gathering information, and the second year is like advocating.
And this information is what's going to inform our work.
Right.
Right, it's gonna guide
For
us.
the following year, I would say. Maybe more than one.
Yeah.
Well, the report at the end of the year doesn't put the sole responsibility just on us, because other members of the Hampton community are able to see, the council and other people can see that report, and they also can start making movements, hopefully, towards changes based off of that, so that it becomes kind of a all Northampton movement rather than just us pushing it.
But it seems to me a very appropriate part of our role to try and elicit what people's feelings are and view on these issues.
I'm just wondering if we're going to be adjourning soon, because I have to be somewhere.
We are. I think we're not ready to make contacts with the community partnership.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you're
you're
right.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
okay, so anyone else wants to take a picture of this before we go is welcome to. We do have new business on the agenda, and I do have one thing I'd like to bring up, and next month's meeting is just going to be our planning and strategy on this. Okay, so try and think of a name, a catchy name that people will want to, yeah.
I'll get the minutes out real soon.
Thank you. Which is connected to the piece of new business I wanted to bring up. So I just want to name and be accountable for the fact that I did not get the meeting minutes out early enough this month to be of use to us in between time and in the coming months. I know we're going to have a lot of work that happens in between meetings. Lori has been helping me get the agendas out every month, which has been a lifesaver. The reality of my world right now is that I'm working full-time in a job that has me traveling quite a bit, and I'm in my final year of a master's program, and I have an internship during the semester as well. So I'm aware that I'm not able to give as much time to the commission as some other folks might be able to give. So I'm very, very proud and very happy to have earned your confidence as the chair of the commission. And I want to offer to step down if there is someone else on the commission who would like to take over the leadership, feels they have the more time to give it than I might have as we move into this project. So I can commit to continuing doing the best I can, which may not always be good enough. And in addition to planning next month, I will ask if there is any nomination for Human Rights Commission chair.
I'd just like to respond. I mean, having heard everything you're doing, that is my question. Is it, do you really feel, being fair to yourself, that you can, or are you saying?
No, I'm not saying I'm going. I'm completely willing to continue at the level I've been continuing. And I am completely open to hearing that it hasn't been good enough.
So you're not asking us to tell you now,
No, that would be, I'm asking you.
and you're willing to keep being chair? Okay.
Any other new business? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Section.
All in favor?
Bye.